All right, everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we are back here today with another edition of Against the Odds. And thanks to your voting, we are playing a deck that is truly against the odds, I believe. So, last week we had insane voting. Thank you all so much. We broke 6,000, more than double the next highest voting we'd ever had, so that's super impressive. Land Destruction was the clear-cut winner over Zada in Modern. So this week we're playing Land Destruction in Standard. And why I like the idea of sticking it to these really expensive mana bases, I think we have an issue. So Wizards, one thing they've really toned down over the past few years is Land Destruction. In Legacy you get Wasteland, you get Stifles, you get Sinkhole. In Modern even, you get Fulminator Mage, you get Stone Rain effects. In Standard, you don't get any land destruction that is less than 4 mana, and some of it costs even more than that. But we are going to make do with what we have. So, we have 15 land destruction spells, every single one of them costing 4 mana. We got 4 Volcanic Upheavals, instant, 3 and a red, destroy target land. 4 Reclaiming Vines, 2 and 2 green, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. We have 4 Demolish, destroy target artifact or land for 3 and a red, and 3 Crumble to Dust, exile target non-basic land. Search its controller's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name and exile all of them too, and then the opponent shuffles. So those are our 15 land destruction spells. Since we can't start destroying lands until we have 4 mana, we need a way to start casting these spells early. So the solution to that is a bunch of 2 mana ramp spells. We have 4 Leaf Gilders, 2-1 for 1 and a green, adds a green. 4 Rattle Claws, 2-1 for 2 and a green, adds a green, a blue, or a red. And the classic Whisper of the Wilds, 3 copies, adds a green mana, 0-2 for 1 and a green. So the goal of this deck is to go from 2 mana to 4 mana, and to destroy as many lands as possible, and then hopefully eventually win with either Dragon Lord Atarka or a Crater's Claws. So when I was trying to figure out the finisher for this deck, I thought about using Ulamog. I thought about using Omnath. Both of those seem more on theme, since they either destroy lands or at least have some land-focused ability. But I decided if I ever wanted to win a match, we probably needed Dragon Lord Atarka. So since we can't start destroying lands until we get 4 mana, which is hopefully turn 3 if we have one of our mana dorks, unlike Legacy or Modern, where you can just start destroying lands so quickly you can kind of keep your opponent off of anything, in Standard, our opponent is going to have a chance to play 1-drops and 2-drops and even 3-drops, and if things don't go well, even 4-drops in some cases. So we need Dragon Lord Atarka to come in and clean up all of those things that slip through the cracks before we can start destroying lands. Crater's Claw, on the other hand, is just in case we need another way to win. In theory, we can destroy all our opponent's lands, get in a bit of damage with Rattle Claws and Leaf Gilders, and then Crater's Claws for lethal. We have 2 other cards in the deck, and they're both really important. We have 3 Radiant Flames. This is, like Dragon Lord Atarka, another way to sweep up those early game plays that can come down before we can start pinching our opponent's mana. It's really necessary, especially since other people can play Rattleclaw Mystics and those type of spells, which are basically like a land in and of themselves. So every time our opponent plays a Rattleclaw Mystic or a Leaf Gilder, that undoes one of our land destruction spells, so we need a way to sweep up all those creatures. Radiant Flames also gives us the tiniest of chances against an aggro deck in Game 1. And then, maybe the most important card of the deck, Outpost Siege, fits right into our 2 mana to 4 mana plan, and it just provides overwhelming card advantage. The thing about this deck is we can destroy lands. If we have a nut draw would be a 2 mana spell, 2 or 3 land destruction spells, and enough lands to start casting them, well, we're going to run out of fuel without having much on the board unless we can stick an Outpost Siege. And then we're drawing an extra card every turn, which draws us into our big finisher, Dragon Lord Atarka, and also just keeps drawing us into more mana destruction spells, land destruction spells, so we can keep every single turn destroying our land, and never let our opponent get to 4 or 5 or 6 mana to cast their big spells. So Outpost Siege is super key for the lock our opponent out of the game plan. Mana-wise, we have a Bloodstained Mire and 4 Wooded Foothills. So 5 fetch lands. We have a Cinderglade. We have 2 Rugged Highlands. We have a single Smoldering March, which can be fetched by all of our fetches and powers up our Radiant Flames to X3. And then some basics, 5 forests, 2 mountains, and last but not least, 2 spawning beds we can sack to add some Eldrazi to make chump blockers. So that's the mana base. The sideboard is geared towards 2 things. We are either trying to give ourselves some chance against aggro post-board or deal with dragons. Plummet is the deal with dragons card. Dragonlord Ojutai, Thunderbreak Regent, all those cards we just don't really have a good out to. So Plummet comes in to give us some chance of getting through a Dragonlord. And the rest of the cards are built for aggro. We have 2 Fiery Impulse, 4 Wild Slash, 4 Feed the Clans to gain some life, and 2 copies of Roast, so a ton of removal and some life gain. Thing is, against a deck like a Tarka Red or something similar, they don't really care if we're killing their lands. They're going to kill us with 1 and 2 mana spells, and since this isn't Legacy and we can't just lock our opponent on 0 lands, they are going to be able to play those spells. So we really need to be able to move out almost all of our land destruction spells in those matchups and just bring in these 12 spells. So we can board out all except 3 land destruction spells and bring in all these Fiery Impulses, Wild Slashes, Plummets, and Roasts, and then we have some chance. I actually think post-board our matchup is good against Mono Red. It's not unbeatable. They can still just get their nut draw and beat anyone, but we at least have some chance of winning that matchup post-board. So I think if we're going to win, our best odds are definitely against control or mid-range decks, where we can sort of lock them out of their big plays with our land destruction. Against aggro, it's going to be really hard. I'm not really expecting that to go too well. But we will see. I would say that overall, our odds of winning are fairly slim, maybe 1 in 5 games, and even that might be being optimistic. Like, Standard just isn't built in a way that land destruction decks are viable. So I'm not expecting too much. I think we'll win eventually, and it would be awesome if we could get a flawless victory and just kill our opponent with nothing on the board with all our destruction spells, but I am not keeping my fingers crossed on that one. So I'm expecting 15-20% of the time to be able to pull off this combo, and I think we'll destroy lands. I just don't think this deck... I'm worried that we will get run out of the game by early plays before we can get our land destruction online. So that is my big concern, is that we just won't be fast enough, and by the time we start destroying lands, it'll already be too late. But I've been surprised in against the odds before. Sometimes decks work out better than you expect, so I'm going to try to remain hopeful, but I think you guys and girls gave me a tough one this week, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the videos, and one last thing on the way out the door, don't forget to check out mtggoldfish.com. They support the Against the Odds series. That's where all my articles are. Tons of great content by other people as well. Got decks, prices, metagame strategy. Basically everything and anything you could possibly want for Magic the Gathering is on mtggoldfish.com. So head over there and give it a look when you get a second. And I will talk to you all soon.